Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please, just read from the book, please. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Haribol, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Salika Prabhu. Haribol. Jai. Beautiful picture in the background. Goswamis. Hari Hari.
Yeah, this is Goswamis.
Yes, I see.
Thank you, Madam.
Yeah.
I guess Kusa Prabhu is a little bit busy. He just sent me a message a while ago and was requesting if I could assist him for a while.
Okay.
So I will suggest we can start. But if you want me to share the Bhagavatam class from here, I could do that. I don't know whether he has made me the host. Otherwise, we'll request him to give you permission so that you can share your screen to read the Srimad Bhagavatam text.
Okay. All right. So normally there's Prabhupada chanting, so that's not happening today.
Actually, I just saw his message. It's around now.
Please, you can just start the class from the Bhagavatam.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then I'll start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanyam Narastutyam Naranchayvam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Muhurayat Nasta Parashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevayat Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtati. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, text number 50 through 52. That's what I was told, 50 through 52. Okay, so I'll chant the Sanskrit, read the verses until we get to 52. Nakula Sahadev Cha Yuyudhano Danai Janana Bhagavan Devaki Putro Ye Chanye Yash Chayashitaha. Nakula and Sahadev, the younger brother of the king, and also Satyaki, Arjuna, the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, son of Devaki, and the ladies and others all unanimously agreed with the king. Tatra Hamarshito Vimash Tasya Shayan Vadhashmitaha Nabartu Natamanas Chatye Yohan Shiptan Shishun Ritaha. Bhima, however, disagreed with them and recommended killing this culprit who, in an angry mood, had murdered sleeping children for no purpose and for neither his nor his master's interests. Text 52. Nishamya Bhumaganditam Draupadyascha Chachur Bhujaha Alokya Vadana Shakyur Idam Aha Hasan Iva. Translation. Shatrabhuja, the four-armed one, or the personality of Godhead, after hearing the words of Bhima, Draupadi, and others, saw the face of his dear friend Arjuna, and he began to speak as if smiling. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Lord Sri Krishna had two arms, and why he is designated as four arms is explained by Sridhar Swami. Both Bhima and Draupadi held opposite views about killing Ashwatthama. Bhima wanted him to be immediately killed, whereas Draupadi wanted to save him. We can imagine Bhima ready to kill while Draupadi is obstructing him. And in order to prevent both of them, the Lord discovered another two arms. Originally, the primeval Lord Krishna displays only two arms, but in his Narayan feature, he exhibits four. In his Narayan feature, he resides with his devotees in the Vaikuntha planets, while in his original Sri Krishna feature, he resides in the Goloka planet, far, far above the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky. Therefore, if Sri Krishna is called Shatrabhuja, there is no contradiction. If need be, he can display hundreds of arms as he exhibited in his Vishwarupa shown to Arjuna. Therefore, one who can display hundreds and thousands of arms can also manifest four whenever needed. When Arjuna was perplexed about what to do with Ashwatthama, Lord Sri Krishna, as a very dear friend of Arjuna, voluntarily took up the matter just to make a solution. And he was smiling also. Oh, let me just check my volume. Okay. Om Ganati Mirandasya Gana Shalakaya Chakshuro Minitamyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Pastityadesha Charine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhaktivedanta Namane Vanchakalpa Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda. Jai devotees. Haribol, thank you very much for being here. Deeply appreciate whenever I get a chance to be with the family of devotees in West Africa. It's always for me, a great blessing and an honor and a privilege to be with all of you. So we are in the Bhagavatam, and in a part of the Bhagavatam where there is a family conflict. And, conflicts, it's so beautiful, the Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam helps us to understand just practical things in life. So here we see this amazing conflict that's going on. And yes, you've been reading the story. And so here we are, where now there's a decision that has to be made, right? Decision regarding protecting someone. And making this decision, of course, what's so wonderful is that this family is privileged to have Krishna in their midst. And so it's not an ordinary, as we know, this Pandava family, they're not ordinary. And so their conflict is also not ordinary. However, conflicts are generally have causes. And so there are different causes for conflicts, and it's not any different even in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so some of those causes of conflicts are data. Conflicts caused because of information. People get different kinds of information. They interpret information in different ways. And so we see that happening all over the world in terms of data conflicts. And then we also see conflicts caused because of resources. And I know that's one that's very common in Africa. I know that because I actually did do some work there in terms of conflict transformation. So there's conflicts in terms of land and money, especially in terms of land, money, manpower, people, there's that kind of conflict. And then there's this kind of conflict, which is a relationship conflict. And so, part of this conflict that we're experiencing in the Bhagavatam right now is relationship conflicts. However, it changes a little bit in terms of when we understand conflicts, because now this conflict is also an interest and position conflict. So interest and position conflict is usually based on psychological issues, and that's based on who's right and who's wrong. And so here we have in this wonderful section of the Bhagavatam, this decision is being made of Ashwatthama, and is the vote, they're trying to understand, make a decision based on who's right and who's wrong. And whenever we make decisions based on who's right and who's wrong, what usually happens is there's usually two sides, or maybe even more than two sides. And everybody seems to want to have a voice in what the outcome of the conflict will be. And so here in this beautiful story from the Mahabharata, we learn now that Ashwatthama, he's there's a decision that's being made about what to do with him, because of course we know we've read the story. He's done this atrocious activity of killing the 5 sons of Draupadi in their sleep. So now we are hearing in these different texts, what side, who's on which sides. And so we hear in this particular conflict, which is a relationship and a relationship conflict, and it's also an interest and position conflict. And so we, as we read, we hear that who's taking sides? Nakula and Sahadev and Satyaki and Arjuna, and Lord, and the personality of Godhead Krishna and the ladies. So we have all these different personalities that's agreeing. They're on one side of the conflict, which is, of course, to spare Ashwatthama's life, to not kill Ashwatthama. And we know that that according to Sastra, Ashwatthama is supposed to be killed because he's an aggressor, and aggressors are to be killed according to the Sastric code. However, Draupadi is here demonstrating another value, and she's having this value of compassion. And so this value is being shared with us in the Bhagavatam for a reason. And that reason is to help us to understand the importance of having a compassionate heart, a compassionate nature. And so now we see that also Bhima, though, everybody is agreeing with Draupadi and Yudhishthira ultimately, because Yudhishthira is the king. And so ultimately in the monarchs, in the times of the kings, the monarchs, they would be the ones that would make all the decisions. And so Yudhishthira, he agreed with Draupadi that to save Ashwatthama's life. And now even they're pulled on their side, on Draupadi's side of the decision. Now we see that all of these personalities, Hare Krishna, Srivas, Vanachari, Prabhu, Nataigaranga, Hari Hari, happy to see you. We missed you at our last program. Hari Bol. So anyway, we're talking about conflicts, and we're talking about the different types of conflicts that's here within the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's a beautiful part of the Bhagavatam. I love this part of the Bhagavatam because it's real. It shows you like, hey, it's natural to have conflicts. Conflicts are a natural part of life. It's just how we transform the conflicts. And that's what's important. So here we are, they're getting ready to transform this conflict. And so the sides are formed. And so here, Draupadi, she's made this decision. She's principled, and she's making this decision based on having a compassionate heart. As we said, Bhagavatam explained that one should not have a steel heart, that we need to have a compassionate heart. So Draupadi, she is demonstrating this value of a compassionate heart. And so what's interesting in this conflict that I really it's just like for me, because that's what I do in my professional life, is I teach conflict resolution, conflict transformation. And so it's interesting because here is a grihasta conflict in one sense, because here is Bhima, who totally disagrees with his wife, totally, absolutely disagrees. And so of course, Draupadi, it's, there's some, when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many ladies that we can find that are very courageous. And so on one hand, we could say Draupadi's courageous, she's compassionate, she's, this is an interest and a relationship conflict. So in terms of the relationship, she's thinking of Kripi, she's thinking of the guru's wife, she's thinking of, not letting the guru's wife have the distress of her son dying. So she's contemplating all these things. And because of that, she's making this decision to not let Ashwatthama be killed. And of course, even I believe in some part of Bhagavatam, or maybe some Mahabharata, that explains that Draupadi was a little bit sentimental. However, the way Krishna explains, the way it's explained in Bhagavatam, the way we are encouraged to look at this conflict is that Draupadi, she was being thoughtful, being caring, being compassionate, and wanting to be protective. On the other hand, her husband Bhima, he was following Sastric code according to being a Kshatriya. And a Kshatriya, when somebody does something, you can't, that's atrocious, like he did, like Ashwatthama did, then that person needs to be killed. And that's actually according to the law, according to the Sastric law, according to the Sastra code. And so here's this husband and wife having this conflict. And according to Bhagavatam, this conflict is pretty intense, because Draupadi is not like, being a submissive wife. And we're told, like in terms of Grihastha Dharma, the wife is supposed to be submissive. But she's thinking she's standing up in her position. As I said earlier, this is an interest and position conflict. interest and position, as well as a relationship conflict. So Draupadi is standing up for her position, and her position is to protect Dharma as far as protection for Ashwatthama. And Bhima is also protecting Dharma in relationship to Sanskrit code and in relationship to Shastra. Shastra says, kill the aggressors, kill aggressor. So now this conflict has become so intense that this wonderful family, I mean, just amazing, right? Because we have conflicts all the time in our world. Do we ever, I mean, unless we're very Krishna conscious, where Krishna can just step in and be the person that's going to make the decision. So Krishna becomes the mediator in this conflict. And so as a mediator, now he is placed in that position of deciding what to do with this husband and wife that are, you know, very intensely at each other. When I think of this, I remember many years ago when I was first in Ghana. We first started the temple in Ghana. And at that time, there weren't any devotees there. I think Srivas came after. It was just like 3 of us there, 3 or 4 of us in Ghana. It was 3 of us actually, myself and Ekendra and Mahamantra. That was it. That was the 3 of us. And we lived, we you know, it was kind of interesting in those first days of being in Ghana because we lived in a place where we didn't have we lived and we cooked outside and, you know, the whole bit, everything that was just in terms of pioneering. We were pioneers and it was so beautiful. I remember we set up there was a temple in Accra, and it was the first temple. And I think, well, our first temple was in Ilopeju in Nigeria. So this is Ghana. So in Ghana, the first temple was Accra, and it was across from a market. I don't remember the name of the market anymore. But anyway, we had a devotee that came from Nigeria. She was from Nigeria. She was, after we started, people started coming. This devotee, her name was Jamini. I don't know if you remember Jamini Shivas. Jamini, she came from Nigeria. And I remember there was a devotee from Ghana. And, you know, like in at least in my experience of the devotees in Africa, everyone has a different kind. The devotees have different natures. And in Ghana, the nature of the devotees are not as confrontational as the nature of the Nigerians. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm not making one bad or good. That's just the nature of people. And so, so this devotee, the male devotee, I don't know what was happening. However, he apparently was really disturbing Jamini. And I remember Jamini, she came up to at that time we had an office in the temple, and she came up to the office, and I remember sitting there in the office, and she said to me, she said, and Kendra was there also, and she says, Mataji, you guys, you got to talk to this Prabhu, whoever the Prabhu was. She said, otherwise, I will put a wonderful mark in his eyes. And I was just like, whoa, that's pretty intense. You know, it's like, what, you know? So she was like so disturbed and she wanted something done right away. And if we didn't do something, she was letting us know, I'm going to hurt this Prabhu. And so we were kind of shocked because that was our first time of dealing with conflicts like that. And so when I read about this conflict with Draupadi and Bhima, I kind of went back to that experience in Ghana where that conflict was happening and how intense that mother was, Jamini. She was very serious about whatever that Prabhu might have done that she thought was, I don't know, it wasn't inappropriate. It wasn't that the Prabhu was acting inappropriately. It's that it's something that I guess just didn't work with her. It just didn't work with her. So here we see in this conflict that Bhima, he's disturbed, he's angry, and even in that mood as a husband, he's wanting to protect Draupadi. I mean, this is so interesting. The decision that he wants to make to kill Ashwatthama is actually to protect his wife. And here is his wife that does not, that she appreciates that protection. At the same time, she has another decision. And now what's happening generally in regular life, you work it out, you try to work it out together, you come to some compromise. They could not compromise. It's very clear in this verse. They could not compromise. And this is why the Supreme Lord himself, he intervened. And so this is how we have this verse and verse 52, Chaturbuja, the personality of Godhead, hearing the words of Bhima, Draupadi, and others, and he saw the face of Arjuna, because Arjuna is like, he's a Kshatriya. He also want to all of the Kshatriyas at first, they wanted to just kill Ashwatthama. However, because Draupadi gave these wonderful arguments why not to, they all kind of softened some, except for Bhima. And so here in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that Krishna, our wonderful, beautiful two-armed Krishna, somehow Krishna is God, so this can happen whenever he wants. So Prabhupada says it though in a way that kind of, it's kind of a little intriguing, because he says that Krishna, he just, to prevent them both from fighting with each other or having this, conflict keep going on, this confrontational conflict between husband and wife, he discovered two other arms. So if we can just visualize that, you have these two persons and they're, going at each other, and they're very intensely, holding on to their position, their interest. And so then Krishna, he just, manifests two extra arms, 2 arms to hold Draupadi, 2 arms to hold Bhima. And so that's what it was like in that conflict that I shared, one of my first conflicts in Ghana. It was like, one of us had to be with the Prabhu and one of us had to be with the Mataji. Now that's like 2 persons, right? 2 persons having to be, and so that's 4 arms, right? I have 2 arms. Ekendra Prabhu has 2 arms. That's 4 arms. So it's not that difficult to understand in one sense, right? Of course, in the material world, we are perverted reflections. So we have to be 2 individual people to manifest 4 arms. However, Krishna being God, Krishna being as Chaturbuja in this purport, he's able to manifest these 4 arms. And because he's, he's a mediator, so he now has to make the separation between Bhima and Draupadi. And so this is beautiful because Krishna personally is involved in this conflict, and Krishna personally is going to, as we'll see in the next text, that Krishna will personally resolve this conflict. So I wanted to share a few things that I was thinking about with Krishna and his 4 arms, because this is Krishna is Narayan. And someone might ask, well, because when I read this purport, I thought, why is Prabhupada putting this in the midst of this purport like this? Well, what's going on? Like, it's just like, the whole thing is all about this confrontation, and, there's this beautiful Mahabharata story going on, and then Krishna Prabhupada just like takes it into another place. It's like, okay, we're going to focus now on this Narayan aspect of Krishna. And actually, as I read it, I was realizing like that it's wonderful to understand the different aspects of Krishna, and that's so beautifully described by Krishnadas Kaviraj in the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Adilila. Krishnadas Kaviraj, he actually, for the whole entire first chapter of the Adilila, he spends so much time speaking about the spiritual master and speaking about the incarnations of Krishna, the different aspects of Krishna. And he explains, Krishnadas Kaviraj, that in order to really understand Krishna, in order to really understand this blue boy that we worship, this two-armed form of the Lord that we fall in love with, it's really important to also understand Krishna's incarnations, to also understand how Krishna manifests, and also understand the different roles, the different ways that why Krishna manifests in different ways. What is the purpose of that? Why is there, the different Vishnu forms? Why is there all these different incarnations? Why? What is the reason for that? And so Krishnadas Kaviraj, he explains that Krishna is actually inconceivable. We cannot understand Krishna. And of course, we learned that in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Krishna, he's the cause of all causes. We can't, in many ways, we don't really understand Krishna. Of course, as we become more and more pure, as we become free from sense desire, sense gratification, then as that minimizes, to that degree, we start understanding Krishna more and more, right? Krishna start manifesting. Krishna says, I am remembrance and forgetfulness. So we start remembering Krishna to the degree that we become free from sense gratification. And that's purely and only through the grace of the Supreme Lord, and also through the grace of the spiritual master. Without the spiritual master, it's not possible to really understand Krishna. So we get that as devotees. This is like devotee 101. Yeah, when when you take a course, there's the beginning, and so we get that understanding. And so to understand the Narayan form of Krishna is important because it gives us an understanding of this Aishvarya form of Krishna, this form of Krishna that is so opulent, right? It's kind of like this Aishvarya form. It's a form that is, of course, as we read, is related to Vaikuntha, the Lord in Vaikuntha. And this is the form that actually many people, especially people in India, they are more familiar with this form of Krishna as God, because this is the majestic form of God, the opulent form of God. And so Krishna manifested that form in this purport, because that, for those persons, and I don't know if this is my speculation, I hope not, I was thinking that anyone that reads Prabhupada's purport and they don't understand Krishna they think that Krishna is an ordinary person, which is really like an offense, right? So when you read the Mahabharata, there are some people that can think Krishna is ordinary because he's acting like an ordinary person. Right? He has these two arms, and he's the friend of Arjuna, and he's the friend of the Pandavas, and he's interacting with them, and somebody could really minimize Krishna. And so Prabhupada, in his amazing purity of understanding about the Lord, he brings into this purport the Narayan form of the Lord, this magnificent form of the Lord, so that those persons that do not understand Krishna as an ordinary person, acting as an ordinary person, acting as a friend of Arjuna, or in this case, being a mediator in a conflict, he brings in this Narayan form of the Lord for those persons that understand God in that way. And so this is, the beauty of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Gaudiya Vaishnavism, not so many people can really understand that God is simultaneously magnificent. He's simultaneously worshipped in this way of this Aishwarya Ras, where you know, there's all this opulence. There's this Vaikuntha planet where it's totally different, as Prabhupada explains, than Krishna Loka, right? It's a different mood. It's a totally different mood. And so for persons that may not have this understanding of the simplicity of who Krishna is, just like when we hear that pastime of Lord Brahma in I believe this is in Bhagavatam. I believe this is first canto. It may be either in CC or Bhagavatam. Well, it's actually in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's also in the CC. So when Lord Brahma, you know, stole the cowherd, the cows, and Krishna came to, and Lord Brahma saw Krishna. And at the first instance, Brahma is like saying to Krishna, "Who are you? You're just a little boy. I mean, who are you to tell me, you know, what about these cows? You know, who are you?" And so then Krishna manifested, you know, this other form for him to see. And Krishna is also saying to Lord Brahma in that pastime, he's saying, "Yeah, you know, there's just this little boy, like you are, like your worship is for Lord Narayan, right? Like that's who you think is God. That's who's God for you." And so that conversation is going on, but then Brahma realizes that no, this young boy is actually the Lord, the Supreme Lord. So Krishna at different times manifests himself in these different ways, just so that people that have no real understanding about him, as this you know, person that can interact as he did with the Pandavas. He can do that. He can act as a friend with Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, and he can be with Arjuna, you know, giving him instructions as a friend. For people that cannot understand that, Krishna manifests as Lord Narayan. And so this is why Prabhupada brings this into this purport. And what's important also is to understand that there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction here between these two forms. Sometimes because we are only able to understand one or two things at a time, right? We're not able to somehow have the split brain of really accepting that who Krishna is, how Krishna is just so, the Lord is so amazing that he can be in front of us, or in this case, he was in front of Draupadi and Bhima in his two-arm form, and then he just manifests his four-arm form. And for those devotees, it wasn't a problem, because those devotees, they came from Dwarka. So those devotees in Dwarka, they understand Krishna's Narayan form. They don't have they totally get that. They understand this mood of awe and reverence. So this is why Krishna manifested this form. And so, yeah, I see that this is very early. Is it early in Ghana? You know, usually my classes are interactive, and I see Srivas is sleeping, and I see Gopinath is having a little difficulty. And so maybe what I'm gonna do, because my classes usually are very interactive, because I know devotees, they are overworked, most devotees, and their bodies are always tired. And I could tell Srivas probably needs to take a few days off and just go, you know, to the ocean. You know, the ocean in Ghana is just the most beautiful ocean ever. Yeah. So maybe Srivas need to take some time off. I mean, I'm doing Bhagavatam class, I know. However, I'm also checking in with devotees, because devotee care is actually a part of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so I can see that sometimes, you know, like when the devotees get a little exhausted, they need to take time out so that they can rejuvenate themselves, so that they can better serve the devotees. So anyway, yeah, back to the purport. So this Chaturvusha form of the Lord is being expressed by Srila Prabhupada. He's sharing this with us so we can understand the difference between Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka, and the way that the Lord manifests with both of those different forms. And then Prabhupada talks here about that Krishna can display hundreds of arms if he wants to, just as he did in the Vishwarupa form in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We can read all about how when Arjuna wanted to see Krishna, in his Vishwarupa form, and when Krishna did manifest that, Arjuna, of course, was, not very. He was kind of frightened, and he didn't really want to. He just did. He wanted to see Krishna back in his two-arm form, and even in that chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I believe Krishna, before he manifested his two-arm form, he manifested his four-arm form. After he did his Aishvarya, after he did that whole, Chaturvyuha form, I'm sorry, the Vishwarupa form. After he did the Vishwarupa form, then he did the four-arm form, then he did the two-arm form. And so in the Vishwarupa form, we know Krishna manifested thousands of arms to Arjuna. And so this is what Prabhupada says, Krishna can manifest thousands of arms if you want to, because this is the Supreme Lord, right? And so the last part of this purport, Prabhupada is saying, so Arjuna now, he's perplexed about what to do. So here we're back to the conflict, right? So Prabhupada, he talks about the conflict, he talks about Draupadi and Bhima and how they're having this fight and how now Krishna has to intervene. Arjuna is kind of like, what to do? Do we kill him? Do we not kill him? They're taking the side of Draupadi. Bhima is unhappy. Bhima is angry, actually, very angry. And so Arjuna now is like turning to Krishna. Okay, what do we do with Ashwatthama? And so Krishna, because he's a friend of Arjuna, so all of you are studying many of you are studying Bhakti Sastri, and many of you understand this relationship between Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna being this friend to Arjuna. And so then Krishna, he voluntarily take up the matter to make a solution. So that's what mediators do, right? Mediators, they come into a conflict and they define what the conflict is. Is it a data conflict? Is it a resource conflict? What kind of a conflict is it? That's the first thing a mediator will do. What kind of conflict is this? What is the cause of this conflict? And once they determine the cause of the conflict, then they start kind of going into the different parties and hearing from the different parties their perception of the conflict. So Krishna already knew all this. He already knew, because he's God. He's our loving Lord. So he knew that, he knew what Draupadi was thinking. He knew what Bhima was thinking. And he actually even knew the outcome of the whole thing. And so here Krishna's, he's smiling. This Prabhupada says here, he took up the matter and it was just like he was smiling. And so the smile of Krishna, it's explained in the Bhagavatam. It's explained in so many different parts of the Bhagavatam how so many people are captured just by Krishna's smile. And so there's a couple of pastimes where Krishna's smile have affected the hearts of different devotees, like the devotee Sudama Brahmana, when he went to Krishna, his wife gave him, I guess, some chipped rice or something, whatever they had, to take to Krishna. Krishna was his friend. And when he came to see Krishna, and Krishna smiled at him, he was just like amazed, he was just like in shock. Krishna is smiling, the Lord is smiling at me. And so he didn't quite understand why Krishna was smiling. He thought maybe Krishna is smiling because, I came here to beg. Yeah, he didn't quite get that, he, at the same time, he was just so happy to have the smile of Krishna. And also when Arjuna in the battle of Kurukshetra, you remember, for those of you in that first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asked Krishna to drive him in the middle of the armies, and just so he could see who's on the other side. And Krishna, you know, he kind of gave a smile, because he was kind of thinking, okay, is he going to back out of this now? What is it that he really wants to do? Is he really going to fight, or is he not going to fight? So Krishna gave this kind of, you know, it's kind of a glancing smile that he gave to Arjuna. And so another sweet pastime of Krishna in terms of giving his smile is with the gopis. There's a pastime where it's explained that there's a prayer, actually. There's a prayer, and it's this is in the Adilila, and it says, "O Lord, remover of afflictions of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, O hero of all women, O Lord, destroy the pride of your devotees by your sweet, gentle smile. O friend, we are your maidservants. Please fulfill our desires and show us your attractive face." So this is a prayer by the gopis, and they're praying in this mood just to see Krishna's smile on them, this sweet smile. And so this was in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that's been explained. And then, of course, there's this there's one last pastime in the first canto where Krishna is explained that he comes to visit, the Lord comes to visit, and that he has the smiling face, you know, this affectionate glance. And so, so this smile of Krishna, we sometimes can a little bit, and I'm saying this knowing that I might be criticized for this, but it's okay. The nature of the material world is that we criticize. We can kind of get a little understanding of this smile of Krishna when we think about the smile of Bhaktitirtha Maharaj. When we just kind of remember that smile and how that smile alone can change decisions that we may have about things that we might want to do. Just that smile, you know. And so not to in any way make Bhaktitirtha Maharaj like Krishna, and not to in any way say, you know, the spiritual master is Krishna, not to make the spiritual, is emphatically stated that the spiritual master should not be seen as God. However, the spiritual master is seen as a representative of God. And so when we think about the spiritual master as a representative of God, and we see some of the qualities and characteristics of the spiritual master, and one of those characteristics of Bhaktitirtha Maharaj was that amazing smile. And that amazing smile is just a little bit, you know, in this material world that we can think about when we think about Krishna's smile, and how Krishna's smile can change hearts. And so this is why Prabhupada speaks about this in this purport, Krishna's smile, and how important that was. And so I am going to close by sharing, and hopefully we can have some conversation about this. There's 3 or 4 really important points. This is a conflict. It's a family conflict. It's a conflict between husband and wife to the end of this conflict. And the husband and the wife, they differ in their decision. One's interest, their position is different. In the material world, we have conflicts. We have conflicts of interest and positions all the time. We have relationship conflicts all the time. And so these are examples of how these conflicts are dealt with. In this particular case, the conflict was so big between these two personalities, the wife and the husband, in order to protect Ashwatthama, because it's based on Sastra. And so the decision had to be made by the Lord himself, Krishna himself. Krishna, in terms of pulling the husband and the wife away from each other, manifested 4 arms just to do that. And then Arjuna, his friend, you know, kind of like looked at him to know what to do. What do we do in this situation between this husband and wife? What do we do? They're both so loved, Draupadi and Bhima, right? And they're both right. what do we do? And so Krishna now is going to make the decision, and Krishna gives a beautiful smile, which means everybody's going to be happy, right? Because he smiles at them. And so we'll continue with the next text, and we'll find out what happens. What did Krishna decide to do? Okay, dear devotees, I pray that Srivas can get some rest. I really do. I pray you get some rest, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Mother, for this wonderful class. It's so enlivening, and from the angle from which you took the class, it's so interesting relationship. So I've been asked by the host to host this program while he's busy with some other engagements. So I will want devotees to raise their hands to express if there are any questions. But before that, I've not seen any answer up yet. But I have a question, Mother.
Yes.
Yeah, my question is, it's amazing and interesting, the angle from which you took the class, talking about relationship. And I see that from a microscope of relationship, family, devotee, community, nation, and global, we see that the most fundamental aspect of human relationship is these conflicts of what is the right thing to do at what time. And I'm asking this question directly in relations to the devotee community, especially in West Africa. One of the greatest things that our Guru Maharaj was always very bitter about in West Africa is how devotees are not able to relate with each other. Like devotees, like that kind of expressing that loving relationship. Whenever he's around, everybody is happy. We joyously engage in devotional activity enthusiastically. But the moment he turns his back and he's not there, we're not able to. And I'm looking back, 16 years now, Gurudev left this planet physically, and I'm looking at the visions he has, what he wants us to do as devotees, and looking at our relationship level as devotees in West Africa. I can't say we're near where Guru Maharaj dreams. So what is that mood that we need to develop to be able to understand Krishna's, Guru's will, Guru's desire in terms of relationship with God brothers and God sisters?
Thank you, Salika Prabhu, for that wonderful question. Thank you so much. Firstly, I am big on education. Education in all aspects of understanding our human nature. It's really, really important. And so education in emotional intelligence is important because devotees often think, I am supposed, they have expectations of how everybody's supposed to be. And the fact is we are individuals. And the fact is that we do come into our institution with different baggages that we've been carrying from previous family situations and also from previous lives. And when we come into the association of the devotees, one of our godbrothers used to always say, it's like putting dirty potatoes, right, in a big container, and then the potatoes are getting scrubbed and the dirt is coming off, with all the potatoes in this container. So to understand our emotions, to understand our belief system, to understand our values is really, really important, because not every individual have the same value based on how they were trained from a young person. And also education in understanding conflicts is really important. As I shared, when that conflict happened for us in Ghana, my first experience, it was a little difficult because, you know, on one hand, it was taking sides, and it would have been having to take sides in so many ways, taking sides with a male and a female, or taking sides with a Nigerian and a Ghanaian. It was multi-layered. And so if we are all educated regarding what are some of the causes of the conflicts, like, for example, in Nigeria, in Ghana, I'm sorry, in Nigeria, I spent so much time in Nigeria just teaching conflicts regarding land. That was a huge area of conflict. I spent 5 months traveling all over Nigeria, from Lagos down to the Sahara Desert, doing conflict transformation workshops, because most people don't, and this is all based on land. This is all based on land. This had nothing to do with devotees. This is based on land in just Nigeria itself, right? So this is something that's just there. It's a part of the culture. It's a part of the communities that's there in Africa. There will be conflicts, and we just need to know where, in what areas are those conflicts going to come from. Once we understand that, that conflicts is a part of life, and once we have emotional intelligence to understand what is a person's value, and what is a person's belief system? If you have a conflict on land, for example, what is the belief system? For example, when I was there, the belief system of a Nigerian Muslim is different from the belief system of a Christian right? Just in terms of a faith tradition. There was a difference in the belief system. So when we're doing when we're doing conflict transformation with land, we need to understand what is the psychology, what is the value of this person or these people that are wanting to protect, you know, their land from people coming and setting up a gas station, which was what was happening. So in any case, education is important. It's not sentimental, you know, to just say, it's not a sentimental thing. Oh, we fight, we argue. We see there's this fight and argument here in the Bhagavatam. It's a natural part of existence. However, and it's not that the Pandavas didn't know how to please God. It's not that they didn't know, you know, that it's not that Draupadi and Bhima didn't understand, you know, religious principles. They fully understood, yet they had the conflict. So once we accept that conflicts are normal, they're natural. However, how we transform the conflicts, that's important. And in order to transform the conflicts, we need education. How do we get education? We first need to understand emotional intelligence. What kind of emotions do I have regarding whatever the conflict might be? And then we need to understand different aspects of transforming conflicts. So Salika has gone. I hope that has been helpful for all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. That's very helpful. So I have a question, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We're very happy to have you today. And you spoke on a very important topic, and that is conflict resolution. Because conflict is part of our life. You know? Every aspect of life we're confronting with conflict, even with our mind also. So my question is that as a devotee, we have seen different levels of conflict among us as devotees, and really tearing us apart, just like we were explaining before. But we have attended so many seminars on conflict resolution. Still, also, we don't try to practice them in our life. And even though we are chanting every day, and so much conflict with devotees when it comes to in terms of dealing with this conflict, we don't even remember that we are devotees. Because sometimes maybe some devotees have to even leave the devotional environment due to this conflict. Even though we are hearing the seminar and all this, still we don't apply it to our life. So I'm very happy for the practical lecture you get, but what is the way forward? Just like Alika Faboso was asking, how can we move forward? Because this conflict is just part of this part of the world, you know, especially in Nigeria, you mentioned, you know, even now presently also there's so many conflicts in different parts of the country. It's just the nature of the people, they are very aggressive in nature. And this is affecting the movement. So what is the way forward? What is the practical solution you can to Nigerians especially, because they're very aggressive, just like you said. They're very outspoken.
Thank you, Prabhu. I choose to kind of maybe describe Nigerians as people that are very determined and are very aware of what they want, as opposed to saying that they're aggressive. Yes, Nigerians are very conscious of what just generalize Nigerians. However, my experience, because I did a lot of work in Nigeria as I was there as a devotee for many, many years. And I was also there as a secular person. And what I could see in Nigeria is that the people are achievers. They're very much achievers. And they're very much principled in understanding what they want, and they will do what they need to do to get what they want. So if we term that as being aggressive, then a Nigerian may hear that in a way that may not solicit, caring and loving relationship. So language is important, as you all know. Language is so important in how we communicate with each other. Tone of our language is also important in how we communicate with each other. So we need to become aware of some of these basic things about care. Communication is very important, extremely important. And it's as you said, Kavikana Purapu, thank you so much for sharing. It's as you said, the practical aspect of making this real in our lives, the practical aspect. Many people have a victim consciousness. They're victims. Okay, so people, if a person individually has a victim consciousness based on whatever past experiences they may have had in life, then that consciousness will pervade in the community, and they will see things, and they will see all the different activities and all the things they don't agree with through the eyes of a victim. If a person is like a persecutor, they just want to make everybody wrong. Something is wrong, If they want to persecute, they want to, I'm going to make it right. Why can't you get better? If a person has a persecutor nature, that will also come out in the community. If a person have a challenger nature, that will come out in the community. So really, the bottom line of all of this is that we need to individually take responsibility for our own natures and to understand more deeply about ourselves emotionally, and to really have a principle and a value of care, not just for others, but first for ourselves. What I have seen around the world in terms of conflicts is that people generally don't have an understanding of how to care for themselves, what to speak of caring for another person. So it's simple in one sense, but it's not so simple. It's simple if we're simple. If we're simple, we read Bhagavatam, we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Somebody comes, they have a problem, we're able to help them to chant. That's an aspect of the simplicity of having this path of bhakti. However, because we are complicated, because we're conditioned in so many ways, there are other aspects of ourselves that we need to understand. So it's not about the other person, it's about us ultimately. It's about myself. What am I bringing to the table? Who am I really in terms of my whole person, my physical person, my emotional person, my social person, my spiritual person. Who am I? Who am I? Most people don't know. They have no clue. They have no clue. And so this is the kind of education that's really important in our community. We need to start really looking at ourselves, and we need, we need to be the person that's going to bring like a different way of how we can interact with each other. You know, if each person take that responsibility, and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj gave these 4 principles. See the conflict within myself is one of those things, you know, see myself at fault first. See myself at fault first. And if we can really apply that, that can really make a huge difference in not only in our lives, but in the lives of other people. Because if I see myself at fault first, then I'm always thinking, oh, well, what can I do differently? How can I speak differently? How can I approach this differently? How can I try to understand this person differently? So it really, it's an internal process, you know, trying to have loving relationships in our communities. It's an internal process. And it's all over the world. It's not just, you know, it's not like just a thing for Africa. No, it's everywhere in the world, you know, where people don't take the time, you know, to really learn about themselves. You see, a lot of times we hide behind the philosophy. Most of the times, devotees hide behind the philosophy. And they hide behind, you know, the principles of Dharma, which is important, is very important. However, within the principles of Dharma, as we can see in this purport, we can see that. We see the husband and wife they're so at each other that Krishna has to intervene. And Krishna has to manifest 4 arms to do that. Can't even intervene with just 2 arms. So, you know, this is just, this is, and we see in this same purport that Draupadi knew her values and Bhima knew his values. They totally understood their values. So, okay.
Yes, thank you, Ma. I'm George Omega. I want to ask you a question, Ma. George Omega, please unmute yourself.
Okay, Mother, thank you very much for your wonderful lectures. Mother, since you talk about Nigeria, I'm also going to bring you back to Ghana. Mother, when I joined ISKCON some 10 years back, first of all, I would like to know, in this age of Kali, do we have to base our actions on morality, philosophy, or transcendental activities? That is my first point. Why am I asking this? When I joined ISKCON some 10 years back, you know, whenever there is a Sunday feast, you see a lot of Brahmanes coming to the temple, and it was most joyful then. Nowadays, if not, it will have been the intervention of Krishna through Jana Chachus Prabhu by this transformation group that he brought. On Sunday feast, when you go to the temple will be virtually empty because the senior devotees are no more coming. Last, when Bhaktidira Damodara took the opportunity to preach here, he made mention that when you find yourself in a devotional service for 15 years, you are eligible to become a guru. So, me, as a neophyte, my thinking is for people who have been in a devotional service for so long, you know, their grievances should be put aside. Even if they have to know the best way of solving it. But I took the opportunity to approach some of the senior devotees who normally comes then, but now they hardly come. So when they come back, I took the opportunity to approach them and ask them some few questions as to why we are looking up to them, but they are no more coming. You see that they end up pointing each other. It seems like tit for tat. So now, this when you go to the temple, the front seat, which is supposed to be the Brahmana seat, we the neophytes are those who are occupying those front seats. So bringing it back to we the neophyte, how looking forward, how are we going to chip in our ideas? As we rightly say now, that opportunity have to be we. Meaning, me just speaking now, I have to chip in something which will bring a new revolution. But we are looking at those senior devotees, they have to open the way for us to come in. And now they have closed that gap too. So how can we come in? So that is my question.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much. Since you have been a devotee for 10 years, I am going to be very transparent in my answer to you.
Okay.
So don't be a victim and don't be a persecutor, because both of those just keeps you going around in a spiral. What does that mean? So as a 10-year-old devotee, you don't want to become a victim to think that because the senior devotees, my expectations, they're not meeting my expectations, that will affect my determination in my Krishna consciousness. We don't want to become victims like that. We don't want to become affected by, any devotee, whether they're senior or they're junior, if they're not acting in ways that's exemplary, right? That's the first thing. I'm speaking to you like this as a mother and as a spiritual mother, and also as someone that care very much about you as a devotee and your spiritual life. Secondly, don't become a persecutor. So one of the things to understand is that this is inherently within you, that you see yourself personally, as a victim and a persecutor with yourself. Meaning you have high standards for yourself, and when you are not able to reach your own high standards, you persecute yourself. When you don't reach the standards that you personally want in your own spiritual life, you choose to be a victim by thinking, maybe I'm not good enough to be on the level that I'm supposed to be. Don't do that, because that extends out into the rest of the environment. So senior devotees, quote unquote senior devotees, they're individuals, they're people, they have choices, right? You cannot really determine their choices. You cannot make their choices. It's nice when senior devotees are being very exemplary. That's wonderful and beautiful. However, it may not always be like that. And you need to accept that. And you need to not persecute them for wherever they may be, because you don't know what could be happening. Some senior devotees, when they get older, their bodies might not work the same way. There's so many different things, right, that can come up for a senior devotee. So those two areas I want to really reinforce in your consciousness. Because bhakti, all of these devotees that have taken on responsibilities, huge responsibilities, Bhakti Dhir Damodar Maharaj, Srivas Prabhu, Bhakti Charadeshana Maharaj, all of these devotees, they have seen, so many situations, just like we're talking about conflicts. They have been in the midst of so much conflicts and seen so many situations. However, they chose to, just be determined and focused in their Krishna consciousness. So yes, I totally empathize with you, George, that not all, like so many senior devotees may not be exemplary. That's a fact. However, my dear young devotee, even though you're not young, you're 10 years as devotee, you become the Brahmana. You become the example. You become that example. You become the next Bhakti Dhir Damodar Maharaj. You become the next Srivas Prabhu. Don't let devotees disturb your spiritual life. Please don't do that. They are individuals. They have their choices. And ultimately, it is between them and Krishna. Ultimately, or them and their spiritual master. Please remember that. Don't be a victim. Don't be a persecutor. I hope that's helpful. I'm sorry I speak to you like that. I can see that you have so much potential. I see you every time I give class, and you always ask such beautiful questions. And I can tell you have potential to want to be the example, want to be an example in your community. And I'm guessing that you are an example. I can see you are an example. Don't like minimize your potential based on someone else. Don't do that, please.
Okay, Mother, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Haribol. Okay. If there's no more questions or comments, Srivan, you want to add something? I'm sorry, I still call you Srivan. I don't know. What is the proper thing for you to do now?
Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Prabhu. What am I to call you? I want to be in proper etiquette. What is it that I'm supposed to call you now?
Srivas Prabhu is okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please share something for the devotees.
Well, thank you very much. I think they have brought out the issue that troubles us, which is highlighted in this purport or the text, conflict, and you have given such brilliant answers. So, in fact, you mentioned emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I think that is what is lacking in many of us. We do not have that emotional intelligence to feel for another. So we have to cultivate that emotional intelligence to feel for others. Once we don't feel for others, we always think our desire, our wish should be paramount, and the other person is not important. And that is the beginning of conflict. As soon as you place yourself ahead of somebody, above somebody, then there's bound to be conflict. So we really need to develop that emotional intelligence to understand that we have to accommodate others. We have to feel for others. We have to empathize with others. Then the conflicts will reduce. But so long as we think our desires should be fulfilled, our ideas should be accepted, whatever we want should be number one, then there is always bound to be conflicts. So thank you very much for bringing out this very important point. And in fact, the last question from Dr. Mega also throws more light on this issue of conflict. We victimize ourselves, and then we become very judgmental on ourselves, and we extend it to others. So we should not victimize ourselves by thinking that we are not capable of doing certain things, we are not capable of getting to certain standards, and then we are judging ourselves and we extend that judgment to others. So thank you very much for these very important points that you brought out. I hope we shall all learn from this class and try to apply these principles, and then maybe we can be better devotees. I would also like to suggest that maybe you can also give a seminar on this platform on conflict resolution, how we can deal with conflicts as they come up, because it's a daily affair. We either have conflicts with our minds, conflicts with our spouses, conflict with our children, conflict with the other devotees or co-workers. Conflicts are always there. Even we see, even Krishna was right there with the Pandavas. There is such a huge conflict that Krishna had to resolve that conflict. So I'm thinking that maybe you can put some conflict resolution together for us, and then one of your lectures could just be conflict resolution. I appreciate that very much. That is my little I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Srivas Prabhu. I'm going to take just 2 more minutes. I see my beautiful God sister here, Mitravinda. Thank you. I also see Linda is here. Thank you so much. I want to thank these devotees for being here.
Please forgive me. I had to quickly just attend to something. The U.S. ambassador to Nigeria is coming to Jos next week. So they sent a message yesterday. Their emissary is in Jos. So they wanted to meet with me because we're going to be meeting next week. We're having the religious council meeting. So I had to attend to them. Sorry, I had to go off abruptly like that.
No problem, Salika. Please. I mean, you know.
Sometimes I want to make a request. If it is something possible, mention something very emotional intelligence. I don't know if it is something that we host, because we can organize one of the weekend devotees with a workshop seminar on emotional intelligence. I've done that course outside of ISKCON, and it's a wonderful thing that I think it's affecting most of our relationships. So if you could be kind enough to give us maybe 1 section, 2 sections, workshop on that, it will be very appreciated.
Yeah, I'm grateful to serve my family. I'm grateful to serve my family. I wanted to go. I think something is happening with the video, with the voice. Salika, something is happening with the voice.
There's a question in the chat.
I want to ask Kavi Kanapur something. Before I go, I want to give a quick session. Very, very quick.
Okay, ma.
So one of the first things that we learn in conflict is in conflict transformation is to be able to listen to another person, right? And one of the things is called reflective listening. Reflective listening. So Kavi Prabhu, I would like for you to share with me, just in brief, what Srivas just shared with us. If you can share, if you can reflect that back. That's our first conflict session right here today.
Okay, man, let me try my best. Yeah, so it's good. Srivas VRAJALILA Prabhu just said that just trying to paraphrase what you have, the lecture you have given us today on conflict resolution, and you mentioned about emotional intelligence also, and how this is very, very important for our community, because there is always conflict in every situation of our life, even with our mind, family, society. So, and also you requested that I think it would be possible for you to, organize a seminar for us to really practice this. So I think just, I don't know, maybe I have, but just start with it.
Okay, so I heard Srivas say many other things. However, I won't continue with this because I just want to point out what you heard, Kavi Kanapur Prabhu, was what was important to you. So when we listen to another person, generally we try to listen not just for ourselves, not what's important for us, but to really listen to what the other person is saying. So I can understand that what you heard from Srivas Prabhu that's important to you is the community having this possibility of having classes, some conflict transformation classes. I heard that's really important to you. So you heard that. Now Srivas did say many other things. So practice listening in your community. And then say to somebody, oh, because then somebody else will say to you, no, I didn't say that. Or yeah, maybe I did say that. No, I didn't say that. That's one of the first lessons of conflict transformation. It's called conflict connection.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let's connect.
We have a question in the chat room. Linda is asking a question in the chat room, ma'am. If you can read it, ma'am.
Okay, if you have time, share.
Okay. So in the absence of any other questions?
No, there's a question Linda is asking.
In the chat room, yes, please. Okay.
Say, Hare Krishna, thank you, Mataji Vajalila, for this wonderful class. How can we become more like Draupadi when we feel lost or persecution?
More like Draupadi.
Turning to Krishna's judgment rather than our own. That is the question in the chat.
Yeah. So I shared these different aspects of ourselves: physical, emotional, social, spiritual. So of course, the spiritual aspect of ourselves is very important, right? That aspect of ourselves. So Draupadi had the affection for Krishna. She was a devotee. She was a deep devotee. She had love for Krishna. And of course, that we could say, well, that love for Krishna that she had, or that she has, came from the fact that, she was a part of this family, or it could come from the fact that, she was brought up in a tradition that understood who Krishna was. So similarly, we're being given that opportunity by Srila Prabhupada to understand who Krishna is. And so that part of ourselves, the spiritual part of ourselves, that's really the part of ourselves that helps the other part of ourselves. That spiritual part of ourselves has to be nourished. It really has to be nourished. And so the way that that's nourished to develop that kind of affection that Draupadi has for us, Prabhupada has taught us that sadhana bhakti is really important. To love anyone, you got to serve them. Even in material life, to have affection for our partners, we got to serve them. And so when we develop this mood of, I am a servant of Krishna, das, anudas, I'm a servant of the Lord. I want to have affection for serving the Lord. Then we follow the process that's recommended for us to do that. Because in this stage of our development, this stage where we are as conditioned souls, to make that transformation in our consciousness, it's very important for us to hear and chant. Hear and chant. Those two things are important. By hearing, we get to hear, about all these wonderful, wonderful pastimes. Just like today, there's a conflict. We're talking about conflict. It seems like, wow, is that Bhagavatam? But it is. So as we hear about Draupadi, and we hear about Draupadi's affection for Krishna, we hear about Draupadi's love and Draupadi's faith in Krishna, Draupadi's determination, understanding that whatever she does, Krishna is ultimately the person that will rectify everything. As we hear about these type of courageous ladies in our scriptures, and as we chant the holy names, and the holy names remove all the impurities that may be there in our consciousness. And then we start becoming like these personalities. And we can see that from examples of people in our own lives, right? We can see that from people that take responsibilities, people that are expressing love for Krishna. We can see personalities like that the devotees that are really just wanting to love Krishna, that are really just wanting to, be an expression of Krishna's love. So that was Draupadi. Draupadi was an expression of Krishna's love. And we can all be that. It's all available for all of us. However, for us, we got to go through the process. And sometimes the process it's easy, but however, sometimes it's also not so easy. On a consistent basis, sometimes it's not so easy. But Prabhupada says just by persevering with the process of hearing and chanting and serving the devotees, taking shelter of the devotees, reading about these courageous women in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are many courageous ladies. There's a courageous lady in Ghana that I love so much. Her name is Ruchira Dasi. She's a courageous lady. She is a courageous lady. And she is an example for all of us.
Ruchi.
Haribo, thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome, my love. I think of you always. You know, you're such a support system and you've been there all these years and you've always been in the background and you try to help, you know, everyone whoever you can. And I know that you get lots of criticisms. You just keep going no matter what. And so, and you make decisions. I've seen you make decisions in your life, and you know, you've graciously given your husband in this huge, huge service for the world. Yeah, you're not ordinary. So thank you so very much. Thank you. So when we want to experience how to be courageous and how to be like Draupadi, look for ladies that are right here in our midst. There are many. Ruchira is one. She's one. Hari Hari. Haribo. Okay, dear hearts, anything else? I just want to acknowledge Devamrita Maharaj's sister is here with us, and Mitra Vinda from Philadelphia. I thank you so much. 5 o'clock in the morning is early, and it's so sweet of you both to be giving your support to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to the seminar on conflict resolution.
Okay, just let me know. Work it out.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
We'll shortly make it happen very soon.
Yeah, I really miss all of you. I miss you. I miss being in Africa, actually. I want to come back. I miss Calabar.
Please come, ma. Please come, ma. We'll be waiting for you. Please come. We need the association.
And I miss the ocean in Ghana. That's my sense gratification. Haribo, Hare Krishna, Haribo devotees.
Yeah, so we request all devotees to unmute now and let us chant a powerful full mantra to appreciate Mother for this wonderful class and association.
Hey,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama. Hare Rama.
hey, Haribo, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
very much, Mother, for coming.
Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rasalila Priya. Haribo. Loka is here, my dear daughter.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
My spiritual
Thank you
daughter.
so much for your class.
Thank you for being such an exemplary mother of what, 4 boys.
Yeah, Haribo, Mother.
Hari Haribo devotees. Okay, I'm going.